Once upon a time, on an African land far, far away where kings still ruled over their people, King Amo lived with his wife and 3 daughters, Akos, Ago, and Dosi. Everyone loved the royal family except the eldest princess Akos because they thought she was too fat. Princess Akos' size was a big problem for her sisters because no one wanted to marry Akos. In their kingdom, there was law that younger siblings could only marry after their older siblings got married. One day, when they were having dinner, King Amo asked his daughters if they had a good day, and everyone except for Princess Akos said yes. Queen Doro knew that Princess Akos went to the river to fetch some water according to her weekly practice as a good citizen. "Did something happen by the river today, daughter?" the queen asked her eldest daughter. Tears fell down Princess Akos's cheeks as her mind took her back to earlier that day when she was fetching water. She could hear some of the people mocking her. One villager said, "Look at how fat she is. She looks like a full-grown hippo." Another said, "When she was coming down the road earlier, I thought we were having an earthquake." And still another villager added, "Every day, the queen prepares 4 chickens. She eats 3 and her family shares 1. The 2 women who were coming to fetch water also made mean remarks about her body. One said, "Look at her. It is no wonder no one wants to marry her. Right? How can a human being let themselves go and become this fat?" responded the other. As Princess Akos cried, the queen grabbed her hand to comfort her. "Don't mind them. They are just mean and horrible people." Her sisters also tried to comfort her, but the king was angry with how mean his subjects were to his eldest daughter. They all knew she didn't eat much. Actually, she eats less than her sisters and exercises more than them. She was the one who decided to fetch water from the river, even though they had servants at the palace. On top of that, she volunteers at the local clinic and the orphanage. Wanting to change the subject, the king told them that the council members have voted to change the law of marrying within a family in the order of their birth. Princess Ago and Dosi were very happy, and Akos was happy for them too, but she couldn't help but think that there was something wrong with her body. The queen assured her that she just had to continue being herself and not worry about finding a husband, and everything will turn out fine because true love always wins. The next day, the royal announcer went to the town square and announced, "The council have all weighed in and advised, and this is the royal decree. From today, it is acceptable to marry without following the order of birth. The first can be the last to marry, and the last can be the first to marry, and in any order at all. Also, the people being married need to agree to the marriage before it occurs. This is the royal decree. Receive and leave it, or face judgment," concluded the announcer. "We have received it. We will leave it," shouted the citizens. A month later, all the citizens gathered to celebrate the marriage of Ago, the king's second daughter. There was food, music, and games. There were even representatives from other kingdoms. When the week-long marriage ceremony started, King Amo leaned over and whispered to Princess Akos, "I have a surprise for you." All the eligible bachelors were gathered to compete in a one-legged race to win a prize. In the middle of the race, the royal announcer mentioned that the winner will get to marry Akos, the eldest princess. As soon as the runners heard that, they put their feet down, effectively disqualifying themselves. Although the king wanted to help his daughter find love, he only ended up embarrassing her. Akos ran away and went to the river to be alone. She understood that her father wanted to help, but she couldn't face anyone right now, since she could hear the music from the ceremony all the way by the river. She decided to dance alone and have a good time, as she often does. Akos allowed herself to fall into the rhythm of the faint music coming from the town square and started to dance like no one was watching. Little did she know that someone had been watching her. The man watching her was mesmerized by how well Akos was dancing. He had never seen someone who could dance so well. Akos finally stopped dancing. The man couldn't stop himself from clapping. Akos was surprised when she heard the clap. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" she asked. "Sorry, my name is Zizu. I'm just a stranger passing through. I am heading to the town square. I have to deliver a message for the king," Zizu said. Zizu told Akos that he had never seen anyone dance as well as her before. Zizu offered to play his drum for Akos to dance some more. Akos was happy that Zizu didn't make fun of her. They talked together for what seemed like hours and agreed to meet again the next evening when the ceremony started. They met there every evening to drum, dance, and talk about their lives and families. Akos did not want Zizu to know that she was a princess. She felt free and happy when they were together. After a few days, Zizu was convinced he had found the woman he would like to marry. Though Akos had also fallen in love with Zizu, she was surprised when Zizu asked her to marry her because he was so handsome and everyone thought Akos was fat and ugly. Akos agreed to marry Zizu but wanted to wait after her sister's marriage ceremony first before talking to her parents. They agreed that in 2 days, at the end of the ceremony, Akos would take Zizu to meet her family. Akos also decided to tell Zizu the next day that she's the eldest daughter of the king. Little did she know that she would not see Zizu tomorrow. When Akos got home that evening, she wasn't feeling too well, and after her mother examined Akos, she realized that Akos has the pox. She must have contracted it at the orphanage she volunteers at. The queen quarantined her and confined her to her room because although everyone in the family have already gotten the pox before and were not in danger, they couldn't risk the health of the people at the marriage ceremony. Akos was heartbroken that she couldn't go and meet Zizu. Akos sent one of the servants to find Zizu and tell him of her condition, but she came back and said she didn't see anyone. In the meantime, Zizu had been waiting by the riverside, but Akos never showed up. He stayed by the riverside throughout the entire night and until the next morning. One day, he saw a royal servant walking towards the river as he was leaving, but he didn't think much of it. Finally, on the day the ceremony came to an end, a few men, his friends, came to the river to try and get Zizu to live with them, but he would not leave. He kept staying by the river most of the day and also in the evening, but Akos never returned. He was heartbroken and confused. Zizu wondered if he had done anything to lose Akos. For weeks, he went around town asking around and hoping to see Akos, but no one could help him. He finally decided to go home, heartbroken. Akos had been in her room all alone for weeks now. It was hard for her to fall asleep. All day long, she wondered if she would ever see Zizu again. When she eventually fell asleep, all she dreamed of was Zizu. After a couple of weeks, the symptoms of the pox disappeared. The rashes dried up and fell off her skin, but Akos was still not well. News that the eldest princess was very ill had traveled across the kingdom. The queen finally convinced Akos that she would find love again. She explained to Akos that she wasn't able to find suitors because of her weight, but the illness had caused her to lose a lot of weight. Akos decided to come out of her room and get on with her life. She agreed to eat something and be carried on a palanquin throughout the kingdom. Everyone was happy that Akos was going to be alright. She was washed, clothed, fed, carried on a palanquin and paraded through the villages of the kingdom. Akos could hear all the nice things people were saying about her. Some said she was more beautiful than her sisters. Some said she was more beautiful than all the women in the kingdom. Word spread across the kingdom and into foreign land when the king made an announcement that his youngest daughter was about to marry, and that at the end of the 1 week ceremony, all men who wanted to marry his first daughter would have to compete to win the princess' heart. Dignitaries from other kingdoms were invited to the youngest princess' marriage ceremony, but many more came for a chance to win the eldest princess' heart. The kingdom prepared for the marriage ceremony and the competition. The marriage ceremony of the youngest princess was beautiful and lush with epic celebrations. But on the last day of the ceremony, when the announcement was made, the bachelors lined up to compete and win the heart of the eldest princess. There was to be one-legged races, archery, wrestling, and speech competitions. Through elimination, the men decreased in number from 50 to 5. The crowd were wowed by the performances, but Akos was not happy. She was hoping the man whose heart she won would come and win hers. The final 5 talked about their dowries. 3 men were helping a cripple across the field. As they reached midway, with all eyes on him, the cripple gestured for the men carrying him to leave him there as he hopped in pain the rest of the way. When he arrived by the platform and lifted his head, Akos covered her mouth to hide her surprise when she saw it was Zizu. Your Majesty, I thank you for the audience. I'm sure these men here are worthy to marry your beautiful daughter as they have demonstrated. But since it will be the choice of the princess, please excuse me as I address her, Zizu said, turning to look at Princess Akos in her eyes. I looked everywhere for you. I waited in this kingdom for weeks. I asked everyone who would listen. In all the villages, I asked for the woman with the biggest smile. I asked for the woman with the kindest of hearts. No one knew a woman with the brightest brown eyes. Zizu continued. No one knew who you were, and neither did I, because I looked for you everywhere except for the palace. It didn't occur to me you were a princess until word came to my kingdom from the king about his daughter and a competition for her hand in marriage. I lost my dowry and broke my leg. You already have my heart, so I can offer you my drum and promise to play it for you whenever you wish. You once told me you love me. Is it still true? Yes, Zizu. Father, this is the man I was talking about, the princess announced. She ran down the platform and embraced Zizu. The king stood up and proclaimed, My daughter has chosen. We have a winner. And the crowd cheered and the celebrations continued. The king asked Zizu to join them on the platform. Zizu and his brothers-in-law joined the royal family. They told them how thieves robbed them on the road, and in their escape, Zizu broke his leg. The queen shook Zizu's hand and asked, Where are you from and who are your people? Zizu told them that he came from the farthest kingdom to the north, and that his father was called Zion and his mother Zora. When he said that, the king laughed and welcomed him, saying, I know your father very well. I came to your naming ceremony many years ago. You didn't tell me you were a prince? Princess Akos said. I was going to tell you the next time we met, but you never showed up. Besides, you didn't tell me you were a princess either, replied Prince Zizu. Akos then told him how she was going to tell him the next time they met, but she fell ill and was quarantined. and that even though she sent a servant to tell him, he was nowhere to be found. Princess Akos told Zizu that all this craze about people wanting to marry her came because she lost a lot of weight when she was ill. She warned Zizu that her weight was sure to return and that she would not be beautiful anymore. You were always beautiful to me, and I hope you see yourself the way I see you. Don't you mind that I am now a cripple? Prince Zizu responded. Akos didn't mind at all. A couple of months later, Zizu's leg healed and Akos' weight returned, but the princess and the prince got married in the Zizu's kingdom in the biggest marriage ceremony the land had ever seen. People came from far and near to witness the power of true love. When you love someone for what's inside and not what is outside. At the marriage ceremony, Prince Zizu played his drums and Princess Akos danced, and they lived happily ever after. The end.